A Thanksgiving invitation arrives, handwritten and elegant, but for Claire, it feels like a summons, not a welcome. The envelope is thick, linen textured, sealed with a gold foil W that glints smugly in the afternoon light. Claire runs her finger under the flap slowly, not because it requires care, but because everything about this family insists on ceremony. She unfolds the single sheet. Wallace family Thanksgiving, Thursday, November 23rd Road, 4 p.m. sharp. Formal attire. No, dear Claire. No, we hope you can make it. Just an order dressed up in calligraphy. Her thumb presses into the corner of the card, denting the stock slightly. She remembers last year. 8 hours in that overheated kitchen. Her hands blistered from carving, stirring, wiping platters as Marjorie clinked her wineglass and announced, "Real women don't complain. This isn't a meal. It's performance art." And Claire, once again, is expected to be the unpaid stagehand. Ethan breezes in from the hallway, still in scrubs, his hair damp with the remnants of his midday shower. He kisses her on the cheek distractedly and tosses his keys onto the kitchen counter. "Did the invite arrive?" he asks, already pouring himself a glass of water. Claire holds it up, turning the card in the air like evidence. "It did. No RSVP. Just instructions." He chuckles. "That's just how Mom does things. You know her." "I do," Claire replies, folding the card slowly. "That's what worries me." He doesn't bite. Instead, he studies the base of his glass as if there might be answers in the ice cubes. "What's the dress code again?" she asks. Formal, I think?" His voice goes up at the end, betraying the lie. He knew and didn't tell her. Claire watches him leave the kitchen, noting how he walks like he's already halfway out the door. She knows that gait. She's memorized the micro-expressions, the polite vagueness. It's the posture of someone who knows what's coming and doesn't intend to interfere. That night, Claire pulls down the black leather folder from the top of her closet. It's zippered, smooth, a little heavier than it used to be. Inside are documents she once filed neatly, medical bills she paid when Ethan's father got sick, receipts from Haley's bachelorette party that Marjorie never reimbursed her for, donation letters she ghost wrote in Marjorie's name. She adds a new page, a typed memo titled, "Thanksgiving 2023 Precursor Notes." It's not anger that drives her now, but precision. On Thanksgiving Day, Claire dresses in a navy sheath dress and low heels. The desert dusk settles in around the Phoenix suburbs as they drive toward the Wallace estate. The house is lit like a boutique hotel, warm, curated, intimidating. Haley opens the door with a hug too long and a compliment too forced. "You look rested," she chirps, mascara thick at the corners of her eyes. Claire smiles. "I slept through the alarm. Must be all the gratitude in the air." Marjorie is in the kitchen in a cream silk blouse, delegating tasks without touching anything. She air kisses Claire, then says, "Oh good, you brought the pies. Put them next to the centerpiece." Claire hadn't brought pies. She looks at Ethan, who avoids her gaze and walks toward the den. Later, after a forced toast and second servings, Claire steps into the hallway to retrieve her cardigan. She passes the study, half-closed door. Murmured voices. She slows. Ethan's voice. She won't see it coming. A pause. Marjorie's reply is inaudible, but Claire doesn't need to hear it. The way her name is never spoken aloud in this family is louder than any syllable. Claire grips her purse tighter, her eyes narrowing, noticing the weight of the black folder inside. The turkey is perfectly golden. The wine is flowing, and the betrayal is prepped to be served. Candles flicker on the long mahogany table, casting warm shadows across crystal goblets and porcelain plates edged in gold. The scent of rosemary and sage fills the room, so rich it's almost suffocating. Claire adjusts the hem of her navy dress and watches Marjorie float past her with a wine decanter like a duchess in a period drama. The playlist, curated holiday jazz, hums politely in the background. And yet, there is nothing warm about the evening. Haley lifts her glass, her bangles chiming as she toasts. To Claire, the family's favorite planner. Seriously, this entire thing looks like a Pinterest board come to life. Claire tilts her head. That's sweet, Haley, though I can't remember planning anything this year. Oh, well, Haley giggles. You're just always handling things. Like her engagement party. Like the baby shower no one ever reimbursed her for. like scheduling Ethan's father's hospice care while Marjorie updated the guest bathroom. Marjorie raises her glass next. Claire, dear, you've always been such a calming presence in our family. We're very grateful for how gracefully you manage chaos. Claire feels the burn of the word, gracefully, settle behind her ribs. She smiles, because anything less would be noted. Ethan, meanwhile, says nothing. He cuts his turkey in slow, symmetrical slices, like a man concentrating on not flinching. Between courses, Claire excuses herself to the powder room. She shuts the door softly and leans against the counter, pulling her phone from her clutch. Her thumbs move with surgical calm. Plan B, it's time. She presses send and slips the phone back without waiting for Lena's reply. Back at the table, the room feels even smaller. Dessert arrives, pumpkin pie, bruleed sweet potatoes, maple glazed pecans. Claire takes a polite bite, then sets her fork down. Across from her, Ethan clears his throat and slides something across the table. An envelope, plain white. Claire blinks once, then reaches for it, her nails catching the edge. You've done enough, Marjorie says softly, with the smile of someone handing a dog its final treat. Claire opens the envelope slowly. Inside, divorce papers, her full name in Ethan's writing on the cover sheet. Legal, clinical, unsigned but prepared, the date field blank, but everything else already in motion. She scans the lines. Irreconcilable differences. Division of assets. Amicable resolution. It reads like a resignation letter disguised as mercy. Around her, the room hums with silverware and sips of wine. Haley is discussing a TikTok recipe. Marjorie reaches for more potatoes. Ethan stares into his lap. The picture of cowardice. Claire doesn't cry. She doesn't flinch. Instead, she smiles slightly, places her napkin down, and reaches for the black leather folder in her bag. They handed her divorce papers. She handed them receipts. Claire draws the black leather folder onto her lap, unzipping it with a precision that sounds louder than it should. The faint zzzzzp hushes the clinking of silverware. Heads lift. Ethan's fork pauses midair. Marjorie stiffens. She lifts the first page, neatly labeled. Hole punched. Dated. Wallace Family Ledger. Initiated November 2021. The room stills. She places it gently next to her untouched dessert plate. There was a night. Claire begins. When I stood in line at a Walgreens at 2:14 a.m. Ethan had fallen asleep on the couch. I just wired the final $1.450 for your mother's outpatient surgery. Insurance had denied the procedure. She lays down the receipt, highlighted. Annotated. You said I was so good with details. Ethan, turns out you were right. Marjorie's hand twitches toward her wineglass. Claire continues. That night, I bought a composition notebook. The first page said, start of financial record. I told myself it was just to keep track, but I think I knew. Even then, she flips to the next page, photos printed. Clipped neatly. Here's Haley's non-legal wedding in Sedona. Caterer. Venue. Dress. Billed to my card. Because your parents had liquidity issues that month. Haley's eyes well up. I didn't know. You didn't ask. Claire replies. Not cruelly. Just fact. More documents follow. Receipts from Marjorie's silent auction fundraisers Claire paid out of pocket to save face. Printouts of emails where she was CC'd on errands. But never thanked. Screenshots of text messages. Claire. Always offering. The family. Always requesting. You've called me generous. Claire says. Laying down a Venmo log. Not family. Not partner. Just useful. Ethan looks like he might speak, then doesn't. His silence is too practiced to be innocent. Claire glances toward Marjorie. You once told me real women don't complain. But real women don't finance a dynasty only to be erased when it's convenient. She lays the final document flat, a spreadsheet. Color-coded. Amounts. Names. Dates. A column labeled, unpaid. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. This isn't a divorce, Claire says, locking eyes with Ethan. It's a collection notice. A beat. The doorbell rings. Not tentative. Clear. Controlled. Claire stands slowly, brushing her hands along her dress as she turns to Ethan. That'll be my legal team. Thanksgiving is cancelled. Welcome to audit night. Janet Walsh steps into the Wallace dining room in low heels and a tailored navy blazer. Her briefcase snapping open with surgical finality. David Reeves follows, older and unhurried. carrying a thin laptop and a square leather folio. Neither removes their coats. Claire stands behind her chair like a host awaiting silence. Marjorie's expression has calcified, fork hovering midair. Ethan hasn't moved. Haley clutches her wineglass like it might deflect subpoenas. Janet doesn't offer greetings. She produces a sheaf of documents from her case and places them beside the stuffing bowl. These are formal debt claims relating to Ms. Claire Wallace's financial contributions to medical procedures, wedding expenses, and falsified charitable filings under the Wallace family name. She speaks in a tone clear enough to cut glass. David slides a tablet forward. And this, he says, tapping the screen, is a preliminary foreclosure notice tied to the residence, pending outcome of arbitration, based on e-signed liability agreements and attached fiscal records. Claire Wallace is currently classified as a financial stakeholder in 3 separate Wallace-owned assets. Ethan's face drains of color. Wait, what? That's legal, Claire says quietly, her fingers resting atop her black folder. Marjorie snorts. This is absurd. Claire doesn't flinch. Absurd was refinancing this house in Ethan's name while billing me for the renovations. She walks to the sideboard, removes a manila envelope. Inside, notarized consent forms. Every time you emailed me to spot this or bridge that, you signed a digital acknowledgement. Small print, standard language, but you consented. Haley blinks. Like, signed? David turns the tablet to face them. Digitally. Time-stamped. Verified. The room is quiet except for the soft clink of Janet's pen tapping her notes. Claire steps forward, voice low but steady. This house? It's collateral. I own your secrets, and your roof. Ethan opens his mouth, then closes it again. Janet flips a page. We're prepared to negotiate an exit plan. Grace period of 30 days. Provided there's no interference. Marjorie slams her wineglass down, liquid splashing onto the tablecloth. She reaches across the table, fingers clawing toward the documents. Janet doesn't flinch. Touch anything, she says flatly. We escalate. You used me like a credit card. Now the bill's due, and I charge interest. The room is a battlefield of leftover pie crust and pending litigation. The candles have burned low, wax crusted at the base. The once polished table now resembles a war desk, littered with spreadsheets and signed acknowledgments. Janet gathers her papers with surgical ease. David opens a slim black folder and hands each family member a single document sealed in translucent vellum. Pending seizure summary, confidential. The Wallace crest at the top has never looked more ironic. The terms, Janet announces, are as follows: 30 calendar days to satisfy repayment or enter public arbitration. Liquidation of 2 secondary assets is acceptable in lieu of immediate cash. Claire speaks next, her voice leveled but sharp. There's an alternative. You sign an agreement acknowledging the debt. Sell the lake house and the art collection. And I'll call off the foreclosure. Haley's mascara has smudged into twin crescents under her eyes. She leans forward, voice cracking. Claire, please, you don't have to do this like this. We're still family. Claire tilts her head, and for a moment, she almost looks curious. Family. Was that before or after you called me a placeholder with a checking account? Marjorie's fork clinks sharply against her plate. She says nothing, but her silence has weight, a silent bomb primed to detonate. Ethan finally speaks. Claire, I didn't know it would get this far. I thought. You didn't think. Claire interrupts. You followed your mother's blueprint and hoped I'd be too tired to notice. You knew the cracks were forming. You counted on me not having the nerve to name them. He wilts under her gaze. The bravado gone. You're not like this. No, she replies. I used to be worse. I forgave you. Janet clears her throat. We'll need signatures within the next 5 business days. Otherwise, we proceed. David slides a pen across the table like it's a loaded weapon. Claire walks to Ethan, looks him full in the face. This was never a marriage, she says. It was an unpaid internship. No one speaks. She gathers her black folder and places it into her bag with care, as if sealing the room behind her. Then, without looking back, she strides toward the door. Over her shoulder, without breaking stride. 5 days until filing. Clock's ticking. You can fake love. You can't fake numbers. Claire sits cross-legged on the floor of her new apartment, the open window letting in cool November air. Outside, Phoenix blinks with city lights. But in here, it's quiet, intentionally so. A single lamp casts a warm glow over her rug. The surface scattered with papers and her old ledger notebook. The leather folder lies open beside her. Pages fanned out like a map. On one page, a faded sticky note flutters with each draft from the window. When they take too much, write it down. She flips through transaction records, bank statements, Venmo logs, screenshots from years of quiet giving. A wire transfer from June 2022 catches her eye. $22,800. Labeled, Final Surgical Offset, MW. The initials aren't hers. She picks up her phone and dials. Lena, she says when the line connects. I just found something off. That Marjorie surgery transfer? It didn't go to a hospital account. It went to a trust, Wallace Holdings. There's a pause. Then the rustle of papers on the other end. That's Ethan's father's estate. Lena says, wasn't that all closed? That's what she claimed. Claire clicks into her archives and pulls up an email from 2 years ago. Marjorie had sent it to the family CC. As sole inheritor of Gerald Wallace's estate. I've ensured the funds are used wisely. Claire scrolls down. An old attachment. Unopened. She clicks it now. A PDF with mismatched signatures and a notary line left blank. She never filed the full probate. Lena says, she just assumed control? She pretended to own the estate, claimed inheritance, and used my money to pad a trust. Claire lets out a soft laugh, dry, not bitter. This isn't just debt recovery. It's fraud. On her screen, a new email alert pings. From Haley. Subject. I'm sorry. The message inside is short. Nearly empty. I didn't know what she was doing. I swear. Can we talk? Claire doesn't respond. Instead, she opens a new draft. To Lena. CC'd to the county probate office. Subject. Petition to reopen Wallace estate. Proof of misappropriation attached. She attaches the PDF. Then the ledger. Then the trust document. Her finger hovers for only a second. Send. Even silence leaves a paper trail. Lena's law office smells faintly of toner and ambition. Case files fan out across the table like a quilt stitched from grudges and legal codes. Behind her, a corkboard map of timelines and trust transfers dominates the wall. Claire stands before it, arms crossed, eyes scanning connections she had once only sensed. Marjorie had once told her. Paper burns, memories fade, but digital ledgers? They archived everything, even lies. Lena walks in holding a laptop. Got something, she says, sliding it open. This transfer, $48,000, dated 3 days before the Wallace estate was officially closed. Look where it ended up. Claire leans over. A fund titled MSW Guardian Discretionary. Marjorie Susan Wallace. She murmurs. She gave herself a golden parachute. And listed it under a tax-exempt vehicle. Lena says. But here's the problem, she funded it with mixed assets. Your money's in here too. Janet enters just as Claire exhales. You're going to want to sign this. The attorney says, handing her a thin packet. Declaration of financial concern. Affirms your standing in the reopened estate. Claire doesn't hesitate. She signs. Notarized. Time-stamped. Final. Lena staples the pages. You're no longer just the wrong spouse. She says. You're a stakeholder. They pin the newest thread to the corkboard. November 2023. Claire Wallace joins estate proceedings. Claire's fingers tap the edge of the table. She built a lie and made me pay for it. You just bought the truth. Lena replies. That evening, back at Claire's apartment, the hallway is dark, the elevator sluggish. She unlocks her door to find a large envelope propped against it. No return address, just her name, typed, not handwritten. Inside, 6 glossy photos. Marjorie, in a tan coat and sunglasses, stepping out of a discreet bank in Scottsdale. The dates, 2018, 2019, 2020, are in the bottom corner. Watermarked with timestamps, each photo from a different year. Same branch. Claire flips them over. Nothing. No signature. No message. No source. But someone had been watching Marjorie long before Claire did. And now, they were on her side. This time, Claire didn't bring pie, she brought leverage. The mediation office downtown feels nothing like a courtroom. But it holds the same charge, low ceilings. Quiet HVAC hum, a carafe of untouched water in the center of the table. The lights are soft, sterile. Outside, the street buzzes with indifferent traffic. But inside, time has narrowed into a single moment. Claire lays down the folder first. Then the binder. Then, one by one, copies of the files, spreadsheets, statements, PDFs. Janet sits to her left, calm and unreadable. Across the table, Marjorie in a sharp navy blouse, lips pressed tight. Ethan beside her, older somehow, thinner. Haley flanks them, silent, fingers curled tightly around a pen. Claire begins without flair. This is a full breakdown of debts owed, assets misappropriated, and estate funds redirected under false pretenses. The supporting documents trace transactions back 5 years. Most of it's recoverable, some isn't, but the IRS will have questions either way. Ethan exhales slowly. I can sign over my shares in Wallace and Reeves, he says, eyes not quite meeting hers. It's not much, but it's something. Claire nods once. Noted. Marjorie leans forward, voice quiet but acid-laced. You've turned a family dispute into a public war. Claire meets her gaze. No, I turned my silence into evidence. Marjorie shakes her head. This isn't justice. It's performance. You manipulated this entire thing. Claire's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Manipulation, she says softly, is what you did when you made me feel grateful to suffer. When you told me I was lucky to serve. When you corrected me for using our money instead of Ethan's. A silence falls. Janet doesn't move. Haley shifts, lips parting, but it's Ethan who speaks. She's right. Marjorie turns to him, shocked. He doesn't flinch. She was better to us than we were to her. And we took it. Claire doesn't soften. Not anymore. You wanted a daughter-in-law you could silence. Instead, you got an auditor with a ledger. Janet slides the settlement terms across the table. Marjorie doesn't touch them. Her hand trembles. What do you want? Really? She whispers. Claire stands, slowly, her voice steady. My time back, she says. But since you can't afford that, your house will do. You don't rebuild from rage. You rebuild from choice. Claire sits on a folding chair at the front of a modest community center room. Fluorescent lights humming above, a circle of women surrounding her with notebooks, tissues, and eyes that flicker between exhaustion and hunger, for truth, for release, for instruction. Her ledger lies open in her lap. Not as a weapon now, but a map. She takes a breath. They didn't think I'd write anything down. That's the thing about quiet women, we notice. And we remember. Lena leans against the back wall, watching silently, arms crossed in quiet pride. Claire flips to the first page, reading aloud the faded words she once scrawled. They think I'll forget. Let's make that impossible. There are nods in the room. Soft exhales. Then a hand goes up. Jill. Mid-40s. Glasses smudged at the edge. Do you think there's still hope? She asks. Her voice hesitant. But there. Claire nods. Hope, she says, is accounting what you survived. It's reconciling every loss and naming what you learned from it, then billing your sole interest. That evening, back in her apartment, the glow of her laptop lights up her face. On screen. Balanced by Claire, financial clarity for women reclaiming power. The site is simple, clean, no frills, just a photo of her, the tagline, and an intake form. She clicks publish. Minutes later, her inbox chimes. New client request received. Claire stares at it. Still, the name is unfamiliar. The need is not. She clicks to accept, signs the digital contract, and just like that, her new life begins. A second chime. You've received a testimonial. Title. She saved me from debt, and myself. Claire leans back, fingers resting on the edge of her desk. She doesn't cry, she just breathes. Then she opens a new document. Working title, The Ledger. A guide for women who count everything. No more debts, just decisions. The morning sun spills across the wide desk in Claire's new office, pooling like quiet applause over the pale wood and matte gold nameplate that simply reads, Claire Wallace. Financial recovery consultant. A potted fiddle leaf leans toward the light. The air smells faintly of eucalyptus and printer paper. Claire sits with her elbows resting on her desk. The final galley of her guidebook in front of her. The Ledger. A guide for women who count everything. She flips to the acknowledgements, smiles, and writes the last sentence. For anyone who believed pain was the end of the story, it isn't. She hits send. The publisher replies instantly, confirmed. Book queued for print. Across the room, Jill balances a stack of folders and a mug that reads, "Own your math." She places both carefully on the desk. Women's Center confirmed, Jill says. They signed the 3-year contract. Claire beams. That'll fund 8 workshops a year. She murmurs, more to herself than anyone else. Jill nods, then pauses. Can I tell you something? Claire looks up. I used to think surviving was the same as winning. Jill says, but watching you? I think it's just the first line. The intro. Claire reaches across the desk and touches her wrist. Then let's write the rest. That afternoon, Claire stands before a group of attendees at her launch event. Lena watches from the wings. Arms crossed, eyes proud but still skeptical, the way only a mentor can be. Claire speaks without notes. Power, she says, doesn't come from hurting someone back. It comes from knowing they can't hurt you anymore. That's not revenge, that's freedom. Applause. But more than that, nods. Understanding, recognition. Later, as the office clears and twilight softens the edges of the day, Claire returns to her desk. Her original ledger, dog-eared, worn, rests in the drawer. She opens it one final time, flips to the last page. I forgive me. She closes it. Then, with calm fingers, she opens a new one. The page is blank. She writes in fresh ink. Client #001. Case. Protecting inheritance from predatory spouse. Claire leans back. This isn't a new beginning. It's a continuation. Her ledger doesn't end here, it evolves. They handed her betrayal dressed as tradition. But she responded with records, resilience, and resolve. When the dust settled, the house stood, barely, but the old silence that once governed it had crumbled. Justice, Claire proved, doesn't require shouting. Sometimes it arrives sealed in evidence, notarized in courage, like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody. Justice may arrive late, but it resonates powerfully once it's heard. In the end, she didn't just balance the books, she rewrote the rules.